Hi, Sharon.
Hi.
I'm on mute. Hi, Diane.
Shabbat shalom. Shabbat shalom, Sharon.
I gotta mute you. Yeah, we had a pretty good study last night. I think you were on there. Diane was, I think, weren't you? Oh, here's Toria.
My father-in-law passed away yesterday, so I wasn't here.
Yeah, I heard that. Sorry about hearing about that. It's always a hard time, we lose loved ones. Hard to deal with sometimes. Here's Phil.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom, Phil.
Great study last night, buddy.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No,
I'm sorry.
yeah. Go ahead. No. Yeah, it really was. And Ruach was all over it. It was good stuff, man. Frank, device is not connected, brother. Device is not connected, Frank. Probably just go out and try to come back in. Make sure your camera and mics and everything's on, Frank. Hi, Tad.
How are you doing today, Mark?
I'm doing fine. Yom Shabbat, best day of the week. It's such an important day for us, Yom Shabbat.
That it is.
The rest of Yom Shabbat identifies us as Yahuwah's people. It's pretty important. And where's everybody else? We've only been on for 3 minutes, so here comes Yami and Rule.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom. We got to keep muted. We don't get echoes. That's a problem with this StreamYard is the echoes are horrible. If there's more than one mic on. Don't forget to turn YouTube off. And if you want to see the chat room, just click on comments. Private chats for people that are in the StreamYard. So if you want to talk among each other without anyone seeing it, then you would just click on private. Alrighty, so it was really a surprise when Wick came on at the end and played for us right when we were getting off last night. Did y'all stay on there long enough to see that? Surprise when Wick came on at the end. Hi, William.
Okay, well, listen, I gotta let you go, man. I'm in a meeting right now.
See that? Hear all the echoing when more and one mic's on, but somebody must have YouTube still on. There's a delay between the StreamYard and YouTube, that's why you hear that echo coming back. There's just a delay through the internet there. There's Phyllis. Hi, Phyllis.
Hi. I think I was the one that was doing it.
Well, let's see here now. I'm on mute you real quick. Luke coming on today?
Yes.
Oh, there's Susan girl. Yay. Huh?
He has to get ready for his Dan meeting.
Oh, is Dan okay?
He'll be calling about 2:00. He has some major problems. He has a tumor that's so large they have to shrink it before they can remove it.
I don't know.
So that's going to take, and it is cancerous, and it's going to take 6 months. And he has something in his lungs.
All right, we need to pray about that for Dan, everybody. We do some intercessory prayer today, heavy duty stuff. Gibson girls here. Yay. Been a while, Rebecca. Glad to see you on here. See, we have 8 in here. We have room for 2 more in the StreamYard.
Come on, Rebecca, join us.
Now, there's somebody trying to come in to see what that is. That's Rebecca. There you are. Hi, Rebecca.
Hi, everyone. Hi,
Glad to
I'm
see
so
you.
happy to see you all. Oh, so glad to be back home.
Yeah, you look like a long lost friend there.
I feel like one. I want to cry. I'm so happy to see you all.
Yeah. Don't forget, everybody, turn off YouTube. Stay on StreamYard. Just X out of YouTube. And we got to control our mics on here because the feedback, echoing is just horrible. So we can only have one mic on at a time, really. I'm going to mute you, Rebecca. Okay. One more person can come in if you want to. Let's see. Monique's here. Gales can come in. Yami and Rule. Y'all dropped out. Okay, try to come on back in. Yeah, that was just a nice treat last night when Wick came on right at the end. That was a surprise. Go ahead, Tori.
This message it's for Diane. I was wondering how your brother-in-law is doing. We haven't seen him.
He's doing well. Usually he's on by now, so I don't know. He was on last night. So he should be coming on, but he's doing well. Praising Yah. Thank you for asking.
Yeah, I saw him on last night. Yami's still trying to come back on. She's having some kind of trouble there. One more can come in here. We'll wait a few more minutes. They've been slow to come on lately here. All righty. Yummy, are you still trying to come on? There's AJ. He's on now. There he is, AJ Johnson. Hi, AJ. Glad you're on, brother. Just a few more minutes here. I'll have to try to have a little bit of patience for it's kind of.
Can I make a comment? We can see the comments for the YouTube chat, but we can't contribute to them. We have to chat on the private chat. So if anybody's watching and they think they're leaving a message for somebody here that's on StreamYard, we can't respond. We can only respond on the private chat, and you probably won't be able to see that. Just thought I'd throw that out there.
Yeah, and on that note, if anybody in the StreamYard sees somebody in the chat room asking a question or something, bring it to my attention, because I don't. It's hard for me to focus on that and read it all at the same time. Somebody's trying to come in. I'm sorry, but only 10 can come in the StreamYard, whoever that is, trying to come in. So just go into the chat room if you see an opening, and then you can come in. But we can only let 10 in at one time. I'm not sure who that was. It doesn't tell me who it is. It just says that somebody's trying to come in, but the chat room's, the StreamYard's full. I don't know why they limit you like that. I mean, this is the premium thing, package. So I wish StreamYard would do something about that. Should bring at least 25 in or something, But we're restricted by them, not by us.
Maybe we need to get a Zoom account.
Yeah, I was thinking about that, doing a Zoom account. I didn't really know if we were going to continue to do this, beyond last week. So, but that's something I've been considering. Maybe we'll do that. I mean, we're getting enough interest. There's anywhere from 100 to 200 people that watch our Zoom meetings now on here. By the way, you can come back on this channel and watch the recording, and then you can see it also records the chat room too. If you want to rewatch it, sometimes it's like, oh, what was that Phyllis said? You can go back on and watch it, the recording, and listen to what she had said, Yeah, Diane.
How is Bruce doing?
Yeah, I haven't heard from Bruce in a while. Usually, when we don't hear from Bruce, he's going through some kind of demon attacks, is what he says.
Okay.
He'll be back on. He does that on and off, quite a bit. So I've been acquainted with him for a while, so I kind of know his patterns. But he'll be back once he gets over whatever's bothering him. There's a few people that go through that kind of a struggle, and we don't see them for a while, then they come back. Hi, Joseph. Glad you're here. One more minute, and we're going to get started. Got a full StreamYard. They're still trickling in here. There is one private chat. Okay. Did you say Lou was coming on, Phyllis, or he's busy doing something else? Your mic's muted. She's gonna go ask him. I was reading her lips. I'll be back. I'm gonna go ask him. Glad to see everybody on here. Most of you were on last night. If you weren't on last night, you should watch the recording. It was very powerful. And the Ruach was definitely in there for sure. Righty then. I guess we'll get started as soon as Phyllis gets back. Dogs were going crazy this morning. They just settled down just as I turned on the StreamYard. They calmed down. It was like perfect timing. Okay, Phyllis.
He says he knows that you're full and he's going to prepare for his meeting, but he's listening. And
Okay.
I guess he could send a text if you need a question.
Okay, cool. All righty then, let's get started. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Thanks for coming. Nice seeing everybody. So we finished Acts last week, and we're beginning a new study. It's going to be over several weeks, maybe 3 or 4, and it's going to be out of the letter of Romans. A lot of people think it's a book, but it's really a letter. There's a lot of debate over that, but it is a letter written to the Yehudim in Rome from Paul. Nobody really disputes that Romans was written by Paul. Almost everybody's unanimously in agreement of that. Trex 13, glad you're here. So the Natsarim writings consist of 27 books and letters, and 13 of those out of the 27 are credited to Paul. They're called Pauline letters or epistles of Paul, Some credit 14 to Paul if you include the book of Hebrews. I personally don't like to include Hebrews or credit Hebrews to Paul myself. I kind of lean toward it was written by a woman named Priscilla. And if y'all haven't really heard that before, study that. It's really intriguing. It's very interesting. It's on all over the internet, so you can definitely easily find it. So most of the time when Paul is speaking now, or he's writing in these letters, he is doing it under the influence of the Ruach HaKodesh. But sometimes Paul actually comes out and says, I'm speaking as a man. Okay, so when Paul says that, I speak as a man, we need to be aware of those times, because it's in those times we're just receiving Paul's opinion, his interpretation as a man. He's not giving us wisdom or knowledge from the Ruach by the Ruach HaKodesh in him. So he's making that kind of clear when he says that. So we got to be aware of those times, because he says it quite a bit, really, through his writings. So Paul wrote this book or letter of Romans around 57 AD, and he wrote it from Corinth as he was preparing for his trip back to Jerusalem. So that would be approximately, we'll say, 24 years after the outpouring of the Ruach HaKodesh at Pentecost, in the first chapter of Acts that we read about, or second chapter of Acts. So Paul wrote the letters to the Yehudim in Rome, and called them Romans because they were Roman citizens, but they were really Yehudim. Okay, but they had Roman citizenship. He did that before he got into trouble. It was way before he planned to be, but he always planned to go to Rome, visit Rome and Spain, and we'll read more about that in Romans 15. But all these epistles or written letters to other Yehudim throughout Asia Minor and Europe were done before he got in all that trouble we read about in Acts. So right around the middle of Acts, where it begins to talk about Paul, to the end of Acts, it continues to talk about him. It's about when he was writing a lot of these letters, because before that he was working on the assemblies, right? He was bringing in converts, and then by the Yehudim first, and then the Greek, or then the Gentiles. And so he was working on assembling these congregations. Some were small, some were larger. Yeah, and then after they were established, then he wrote letters to them, corresponded to them back and forth. As they wrote letters to him, he wrote letters back. That's usually what was going on here in most of these letters. So he had received correspondence, and then he returned the correspondence to that congregation. It was read to that congregation. And sometimes his letters were passed around to the different congregations. They were all fairly close. They weren't real far apart. Except Rome, of course, that was pretty far out there. So all these letters, all these Pauline letters, that we're going to go through them all, beginning with Romans here, were written at some point in Acts. It had already been written. And the thing about Paul, before we begin to read his correspondences, that we need to realize is his verbiage was not real clear. So he would say law or Torah or ordinances or something that people widely mistake as talking about abolishing the Torah, or that Paul was teaching lawlessness to us, because they put everything he's saying into one basket. That the Torah is no longer valid, and it's not. If you don't know, it's very easy to do that. It's confusing for most people, because Paul is not real precise and clear about what he's talking about. And so it sounds like he's putting everything into one basket, but he's not. And this, the confirmation of this is in 2 Peter 3. So when we read 2 Peter 3, it makes us realize, hey, there's something wrong with Paul's writings. So we have to be aware of that. Okay, so everybody turn to 2 Peter 3, verse 14. Everybody has their BYNV. If not, we'll read it for you. So 2 Peter 3:14 to the end there. So then, beloved ones, looking forward to this, do your utmost to be found by him in peace, spotless and blameless, and reckon the patience of our master as deliverance. As also our beloved brother Paul wrote to you according to the wisdom given to him, which would be from the Ruach, right? And it's also in all his letters, speaking in them concerning these matters, in which some are hard to understand, which those who are untaught and unstable twist to their own destruction, as they do also the other scriptures. They're without understanding. You then, beloved ones, be forewarned, watch, lest you also fall from your own steadfastness, being led away with the delusion of the lawless, but grow in the favor and knowledge of our Master and Deliverer, Yahushua Mashiach. To him be esteemed both now and to a yom that abides. Amen. Okay, so here Peter is confirming that there's something wrong with Paul's letters, and what that is he's not real clear. But here's the kicker. The people back in Paul's time, most of them understood what Paul was saying. They didn't have any problem with it like we do, because they were into the Torah a lot more. They didn't have the Natsarim writings. Okay, it was all about the Tanakh and the scrolls and the parchments and stuff. So they had a better understanding where Paul was coming from, even though they even struggled, is evident of what Peter just wrote. Peter himself was struggling with some of Paul's letters. What is he talking about here? So we're going to run across that, obviously. And so this is what we want to be keen of, and we want to really focus in on what exactly is Paul talking about here as we start studying through the Pauline letters. Now, there is some discrepancy about the legitimacy of Paul's writings. Some of you may have run across that, those that have been around for a while. Some may not know anything about that, but there has been forgeries, proven forgeries of Paul's writings that have been removed because they were found out to be forgeries. There's rumors about Paul that he was an implant. He was a spy implanted by the Pharisees, the Sanhedrin, into the followers of Yahusha to find out what they're doing and to mix them up and mess them up on what they're doing and all this and that, and try to bust up the way. So through the years, some things have been found to be forgeries and thrown out. Others have not. Others are still in high debate among scholars and other people. All right. Publishers and translators and stuff like that. So there's we'll just include Hebrews and say out of the 14. There are only 7 letters that are accepted widely as being entirely authentic or dictated or written by Paul himself. There's only 7 that they all agree upon. And those 7 are Romans, which we're getting ready to study, 1 Corinthians, 2 Corinthians, Galatians, Philippians, and 1 Thessalonians, and Philemon. The rest of them are still under scrutiny as possible forgeries. Now, the reason this is all happening, if you have the Fossilized Customs book, you can read more about it in there. It's definitely in there. But the thing of it is, there was a lot of crazy stuff going on. There was a battle for control through the Orthodox Judaism, through the Gnostics. They studied and worshiped knowledge. And then the Mithraism crowd, which were basically sun worshipers, they were all fighting for domination over which religion, which doctrine would be primary doctrine in the Roman Empire. And so there was a lot of battling going on. There was a lot of forgeries being written and sent around trying to mislead people and all this and that. And that's where a lot of it comes in, and that's why there's forgeries, because Paul's letters were being captured and forged and sent on. They were forging things and sent them on, acting like Paul was telling them to do something, but it wasn't really Paul saying that. They were trying to influence those people, things like that going on. So it was a mess. So I'm not going to get off on that tangent, but like I said, Fossilized Customs has got a lot of stuff written about it in there. And so look that up in there and educate yourself on that, because once you get that really out there in the world and you're talking to a lot of people about truth, you're going to come across this stuff, and you need to be prepared and have an answer for them. Okay. So Peter said, when we just read, he called him our beloved brother Paul. So that means there wasn't anything wrong with Paul, but he did have a bad rap because of his previous life as a Pharisee and hunting down the Natsarim, and also because of all the forgeries of his letters that were being passed around all over the place in that particular era. Okay. Let's get started then on the book of Romans. The first chapter here is like, when it begins, it's like from Paul to someone. Okay, so it's a salutation, but it's which is a greeting, in the beginning of the letter. But it's kind of different because it's like from and to, and that's why some people say it's a book, but it's really not. It really is a letter. And at the end of Romans, he goes through great exertion and to greet people there back and forth. So, which proves that it is a letter. But anyways, here we go. This is number one, is like from Paul. Anybody want to read it? I mean, I did a lot of reading last night. I could use the help. Go ahead, Tori. I appreciate it. Yami, I'll get you next.
I'm not good at it, but I'll sure do it.
I'll just warn you, I'm gonna interrupt a lot because these first 3-4 chapters is a lot of people get extremely confused on them because of the way Paul talks or writes. Okay. So be prepared for a lot of interruptions, but I appreciate it. Go ahead, Toria.
Okay. Paul, a servant of Yahusha, Mashiach, a called emissary, separated to the Bezorah of Elohim, which he promised before through his prophets in the Kodesh writings concerning his son, who came of the seed of Dawood according to the flesh, who was designated son of Elohim with power, according to the Ruach HaKodesh, by the resurrection from the dead, Yahusha Mashiach, the master of us, through whom we have received favor and office of the emissary in obedience to the belief among all the nations on behalf of his name, among whom you also are the called ones of Yahusha Mashiach. To all who are in Rome, beloved of Yahuwah, called Kodashim.
Okay, hang on. All right, so there it is. So it is from Paul, and then he tells us who he's writing this letter to. So this is the to all who are in Rome, beloved of Yahuwah, called Kadeshim, which is like, I guess, saints or set apart ones, as far as we're concerned. Favor to you and peace from Yahuwah, our Father and Master, Yahusha Mashiach. Okay, so who's he writing this letter to in Rome? It says all who are in Rome. Who's all? Is this Orthodox Judaism people? Some kind of religious sect, Pharisees, Sadducees or something? Or is this Natsarim living over there with the Besor of Yahuwah? With the knowledge of Yahuwah? Who is this? Who's he? Who do y'all think he's talking to?
Kodashim?
Kodashim means set apart ones or saints or.
Right, all those who are following.
Following what? The Torah?
The Yahusha.
Or Yahusha?
Both.
And remember that conversation we had? It could be both. But if we read on, we'll be exposed a little bit more to who he's talking to here. Now, I'll just say that there can be Natsarim that have not been empowered yet by the Ruach. Everybody agree to that? So they've heard about the Messiah coming. They perhaps believe, but they have not been empowered by the Ruach. They don't know the whole story, perhaps. They don't understand the regeneration or the rebirth yet. And is that possible? Yeah, it's very possible, and probably what's going on. But okay, let's go ahead.
7. To all who are in Rome, beloved of Yahuwah, called Kodashim, favor to you and peace from Yahuwah, our Father, and the Master, Yahushua HaMashiach. First, I truly thank my Elohim through Yahushua Mashiach for you all, that your belief is spoken of in all the world. For Elohim is my witness, whom I serve with my Ruach in the Bezorah of his Son. How unceasingly I make mention of you, always asking in my prayers, if at all possible I shall be blessed by the desire of Yahuwah to come to you, for I long to see you, so as to impart some Ruach-like gift to you, for you to be established.
Okay, hold on now. All right, so that right there seems to tell us the story, doesn't it? So he's understanding that he has brothers there, Yehudim brothers, Israelites there, but they have not been empowered yet. These are Natsarim with no power, okay? And so Paul is saying here, for I long to see you so as to impart some Ruach-like gift to you. Why? For you to be established. Established as what? Natsarim. Right? So what's this Ruach-like gift that he needs to come impart to them, this Ruach-like gift, so that they can be established? What's that? Anybody have any idea what that Ruach-like gift would be? Let's turn to 1 Corinthians chapter 12, everybody. 1 Corinthians chapter 12. Ted, can you read this for us, please? Ted? Can you read for us? Go on.
Yeah.
You can start with verse 1 in chapter 12 and go down to verse 11.
Are you shitting me?
Okay.
Who said that? Go ahead, Tad. 1 through 11, brother. 1 Corinthians 12.
Okay. And concerning Ruach-like gifts, brothers, I do not wish you to be ignorant. You know that you were nations, led away to the dumb idols, even as you might be led. Therefore, I make known to you that no one speaking by the Ruach of Yahuwah says Yahusha is a curse, and no one is able to say that Yahusha is master except by the Ruach HaKodesh. And there are different kinds of gifts, but the same Ruach. There are different kinds of services, but the same master. And there are different kinds of workings, but it is the same Yahuwah who is working all in all. And to each one is given the manifestation of the Ruach for profiting. For to one is given a word of wisdom through the Ruach, and to another a word of knowledge according to the same Ruach. And to another belief by the same Ruach, and to another gifts of healing by the same Ruach, and to another operations of powers, and to another prophecy, and to another discerning of Ruachs, and to another kinds of tongues, and to another interpretation of tongues. But one and the same Ruach works all these, distributing to each one individually as he intends.
All right, thanks, Ted. So there we go. This is the Ruach-like gifts that he wants to bestow upon this group of believers over here that has no power, so that they can be established. Could be one, could be several. So this brings in the importance of the gifts of the Ruach. Does it not? But what's the most important thing for these people? They have to be immersed with the Ruach HaKodesh. Otherwise, how are they going to exercise or implement these spiritual gifts that Paul wants to establish them with? So that's another aspect, if you will, that he's speaking of here, is he can't wait to get there so some of them can get the Ruach, receive the Ruach HaKodesh. All right, let's go on, Toria.
Okay, 11. For I long to see you, so as to impart some Ruach-like gift to you, for you too be established, and that is, to be encouraged together among you, each by the other's belief, both yours and mine. And I do not wish you to be unaware, brothers, that I often proposed to come to you, but was hindered until now, in order to have some fruit among you, as also among the other nations. I am a debtor both to Greeks and to foreigners, both to wise and to foolish. That is why I am so eager to bring the Bezorah also to you who are in Rome, for I am not ashamed of the Bezorah of Mashiach, for it is the power of Yahuwah for deliverance to everyone who believes, to the Yehudi first and also to the Greek. For in it the righteousness of Yahuwah is revealed from belief to belief, as it has been written, but the righteous shall live by belief. For the wrath of Yahuwah.
Stop right there. All right, so he for it to the power of Yahuwah for deliverance to everyone who believes, to the Yehuda first and also the Greek. So this right here, and you're going to hear this a lot, is evidence for us that Paul and the other emissaries always went to the congregations of the Yehudim first and took the Besorah to them and then to the Gentiles. So when they say that Paul was an emissary to the Gentiles only, this is false. Okay, it's written in here a lot in Romans. You're going to see that he takes it to the Yehudim first and then the Greeks. All right, so he wasn't just assigned to the Gentiles like some of the false teachers teach us that. It's not true at all. The Yehudim had to be converted just as well as the Gentiles by belief and through belief. Okay, and we're going to get into that. And so as it goes up here and says, but the righteousness shall live by belief, is they love to point at this, these uninformed teachers, and tell us that all you have to do is believe. There's no more works required. And they love tearing into Paul's writings here because it sounds like this is what Paul's saying, but once we realize what's really going on, we see that there's no truth in that whatsoever. So this is what I've been always called Amunah, which is steadfastness in your belief. And we can see the confirmation on this as Amunah. And if we go, let's go, everybody turn over here to Habakkuk. Habakkuk. In mine, it's page 623. And just start at 1 and go through 4 here. I stand at my watch and station myself on the watchtower. One of the definitions of Natsarim is watchman. And wait to see what he says to me and what to answer when I am reproved. And Yahuwah answered me and said, write the vision and scribe it on the tablet so that he who reads it runs. For the vision is yet for an appointed time. So this is prophecy. And it speaks of the end. Speaks of the end of the latter days. And does not lie. If it lingers, wait for it shall certainly come. It shall not delay. See he whose being is not upright, in him is puffed up. Yeah, so if they're not upright, they're puffed up because they're all about their self. They're a narcissist type. They want the esteem for themselves. But the righteous one lives by his steadfastness, okay, which is amunah. Same thing here. But the righteous shall live by belief. See the connection? All right, so let's keep that in mind as we continue on here with Paul. Go ahead, Toria.
Okay, 18. For the wrath of Yahuwah is revealed from heaven against all wickedness and unrighteousness of men who suppress the truth in unrighteousness, because that which is known of Yahuwah is manifest among them, for Yahuwah has manifested it to them. For since the creation of the world, his invisible qualities have been clearly seen, being understood from what has been made, both his everlasting power and mightiness for them to be without excuse. Because although they knew Yahuwah, they did not esteem him as Yahuwah, nor gave thanks, but became vain in their reasonings, and their undiscerning heart was darkened.
Okay, hold on. All right, so Paul's starting to distinguish here now between belief and unbelief. Okay, and if we notice, what we're being told here so far is that the knowledge of Yahuwah, okay, is found in his creation. It's not just written down in the Torah. Okay, it's found in his creation, and his righteousness is also implanted or built into our conscious mind so that we are without excuse. Even if we don't have the Torah, we have no excuse for our unrighteousness. And we have no excuse for our unbelief because he's put it in our minds, in our conscious to believe, and he sowed it into his creation for us to believe. We have no excuse, period. And this is what Paul is getting ready to try to explain here to the Romans. As we continue on, we're going to find out that there's really three witnesses against us. There is the written letter, the Torah, there's his creation, and there's our conscience. It doesn't matter if you only have one or if you have two or if you have the three, and whatever three, it doesn't matter. You're without excuse for your unbelief and your unrighteousness. It's a matter of choice. Then it becomes a matter of a choice, does it not? We choose to believe or choose to be righteous or unrighteous. So now it's our choice. We have no other excuse for it. It becomes a choice. Okay, let's go, Toria.
Okay. 22. Claiming to be wise, they became fools and changed the esteem of the incorruptible Yahuwah into the likeness of an image of corruptible man and of birds and of four-footed beasts, and of reptiles.
Hang on right there. That's kind of important to catch this. So they changed the esteem of the incorruptible Yahuwah. All right. So they knew of him. They knew of the esteem of him and everything, right? But would they traded it for something? What did they trade the knowledge of Yahuwah for? Image of corrupt man? Worshiping men? And animals? It's exactly what.
Looks
Go
like
ahead.
astrology.
Could be. But more than that, it's the creation of what we're seeing among us. Okay, it's men and animals. They are worshiping. They are giving Yahuwah's esteem. They traded it instead of recognizing Yahuwah, giving him the esteem. They gave the esteem to other men and animals. But yet they know of Yahuwah. Okay. So, worshiping of men and animals. They're worshiping creation and idols rather than Yahuwah. And they're trading his esteem instead of worshiping him, giving him the esteem, and give the esteem to men and animals. Are there men that willingly want to receive the esteem of Yahuwah? You better believe it. There's a lot of them. Go ahead, Toria.
You're muted, Toria.
I was muted too. I'm sorry.
Sorry. I noticed it says the likeness and image of corruptible men, birds, and the four-footed beast. So they were already corrupted. So that to me is saying the things that the fallen had created. Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, they even made statues and images of men and animals, didn't they? They sure did. I mean, look around our nation right now. There's a lot of statues of men and animals. So yeah, they even took it to a step further. They made images and statues and bowed down to those as well. Go ahead, Phyllis.
They say they give credit to Mother Nature and what she has done.
Yeah, that's correct. And while knowing all of the while knowing who Yahuwah is, but giving his esteem to others, to men and animals and nature and creation. That's what's crazy here. This is what the Paul's saying. They know who Yahuwah is. They have no excuse. He put the knowledge of himself in their belief, in their mind, conscious mind. He created it. He put it in his creation for them. And later on, they received the letter. So they're without excuse. They know. They might say they don't know and they don't believe, but guess what? They're liars. According to what we're reading here, they absolutely know and believe in Yahuwah. They just elect to give his esteem to men and animals, and they make images and statues of them and bow down to it. So they're liars. Anybody say they don't believe in you is lying, man. Period. Go. They secretly believe. Go ahead, William.
Yeah, back in 18, it says, who suppress the truth in disobedience. Okay, they're willfully doing this, not in ignorance or not in the lack of knowledge. They're willfully doing this because they know who they are doing it against. It's with intent, I should say.
And you are exactly right, sir. Why do we know that? Because Scripture tells us so. That's why. Okay, Toria. Let's continue on.
24. Therefore, Yahuwah gave them up to uncleanness in the lust of their hearts, to disrespect their bodies among one another, who changed the truth of Yahuwah into the falsehood, and worshipped and served what was created rather than the Creator, who was blessed forever. So be it. Because of this, Yahuwah gave them over to degrading passions. For even their women exchanged conventional relations for what is against convention. And likewise, the men also, having left conventional relations with women, burned in their lust for one another, men with men, committing indecency and receiving in return the penalty, which was due for their straying.
Okay, hang on, Matt. Okay, so wow, huh? So what kind of that's so we know what's going on and why people are behaving the way they're behaving, right? And so the the degrading passions is really a demoralized state, isn't it? It's they're doing, and then when you said against convention, conventional relations for what is against convention, this is normal behavior. Okay, it's what it is. Normal behavior is what Yahuwah created things to be. So he created a man and a woman to unite into one body and to become one. He didn't create, and two men to do this. So the normal convention would be a man and a woman in a relationship, a marriage relationship, becoming one, right? So here, since they're taking him and they changed the truth of Yahuwah into falsehood and gave his esteem to his creation, he's turning right around and mixing up their normality and making them abnormal, putting them in a demoralized state of being is their punishment. So these people that are doing this is being punished for doing up here what Paul said they did in order to be punished. And that's to give Yahuwah's esteem to men and animals. And making statues in an image and bowing down to them, and even worshiping the creation like Phyllis and Tad suggested. So this isn't something they're born to be. This is a learned behavior. And matter of fact, I'll go as far as saying that Yahuwah gave them that behavior because of what they were doing. So they mix it up and they lie and everything else about all this and all this transgender stuff that we're being confronted with now in this time and age, is all wrapped up in what we're reading here. It's not normal stuff, man. Go ahead, Toria.
I was just thinking, it was talking about, how a husband and a wife, when a man and woman come together, they become one. That is so powerful, as in Yahuwah and Yahusha, the marriage, which I don't think people realize when the opposite sexes will never have that power and will never become that one because they're going against what was created. Just a thought.
No, you're absolutely right on, spot on with that, man. As a matter of fact, I'll take it a step further and say that our marriage to a man and a woman becoming one is exactly the same spiritually as Yahusha and his elect becoming one. Okay, which means what? If we're Mr. and Mrs. Smith, because we've become one, and when we marry Yahusha, are we not Mr. and Mrs. Yahusha? Become one with him. So what does that make us? Yahusha.
Ahad.
We have become Yahusha. We're little Yahushas running around now. Why? Well, the old man has been put off, is dead and been put off, number one. We are resurrected as a new creature, so we're no longer the old man, so we can't be a fleshly flesh anymore. We're spiritual.
Is that why he says, I am in my Father is in I, and I in you?
Exactly. That's the exact message he's given us. If we have put off the flesh and we have Yahusha in us, living in us, we're his temple. He's in us. He's written his commands on our hearts. He's put them in our minds. He's living in us. Yahuwah looks down. He no longer sees us. He doesn't even see our sins anymore. He's forgotten about our sins. He doesn't see us. Why? Because he's seeing Yahusha. We've become Yahusha, one with Yahusha. As the Father and the Son are one, so is the Son and us, the same as the Father and the Son being one. So why do we doubt that we should have power? Why did Yahusha say, you're going to do more than what I've done? You're going to do more than what you've seen me do. Why? Because it's a continuing work of the Ruach HaKodesh, because we have become Yahusha. Why? Well, how does that make sense? So we're Yahusha. Yeah, you got your mind, Mark? What you talking about? We're Yahusha. You done lost your marbles, boy. No, I haven't, because we're the body of Yahusha. He's the head. We're the body. How can the head live without the body? How can the body live without a head? They can't. They're one. So since we're the body of Yahusha, we have become Yahusha. Think about it, Natsarim. I've been waiting a long time for people to come into this understanding. And it's time to bring it out into the open. We need to wake up and realize who our Elohim is and who we are as his children of light, as his chosen, his elect, his bride. It's been a long time coming. But I'm ready to expose the light, man. I'm ready to expose the darkness with the light. I'm tired of it, man. Sick and tired of the lies and the falsehood and the disinformation that's given to us through uninformed teachers. Go ahead, Toria.
It makes me think of when our Messiah, Yahusha, asked, who do they say that I am? And in turn, I think it's something that's always stuck with me, that I have to ask myself, who do they say that I am? Because we are supposed to be of him. And what do they see? It's a question that I ask myself almost every day.
Yeah, that's powerful stuff, man. Okay, so I hope everybody's at least understanding somewhat of what we're speaking about here. I know this is very deep in the spiritual realm, but it's time for Natsarim to walk in the Ruach and not in the flesh. We got to get out of the mind, the flesh, guys. All right, go ahead, Toria. Let's continue on. Unless anybody else has anything. Anybody? Okay, let's continue.
Okay. 28. And even as they did not think it worthwhile to possess the knowledge of Yahuwah, Yahuwah gave them over to a reprobate mind to do what is improper, having been filled with all wickedness, whoring, wickedness, greed, evil, filled with envy, murder, fighting, deceit, evil habits, whisperers, slanderers, haters of Yahuwah, insolent, proud, boasters, advisors of evil, disobedient to parents, without discernment, covenant breakers, unloving, unforgiving, ruthless, who though they know the righteousness of Yahuwah, that those who practice such deserve death, not only do the same, but also approve those who practice them.
Okay, hang on a minute. All righty. Yeah, wow, huh? So this again, this reprobate mind is a mind that it's unprincipled, or depraved mind. Okay, whack job. I mean, they're doing evil and they're choosing death over life. We'll just say. And to do it is improper, having been filled with all wickedness. And then it goes on to tell us what all wickedness is. Right? It goes through a big long list: envy, murder, fighting, deceit, evil habits like drugs, smoking cigarettes, being a drunkard, perverted sex, whatever you want to call it, stalking people, whatever the habit is that's controlling you, whisper slanders, haters of Yahuwah, and all this and that without discernment, covenant breakers. What's a covenant breaker? Someone who goes against the 10 love commands, right? They're not obeying Yom Shabbat. They're a covenant breaker. They're willingly doing it. It's not that they made a mistake and forgot, I forgot it's Yom Shabbat. Shouldn't have done that. Sorry, Yahuwah. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about people that say, I ain't doing this, man. I want to go out and party with my friends, go to the beach, hang out with my kids, whatever. Okay, somebody who is intentionally, wantonly, and willingly breaking the covenant is what we're talking about here. Unloving, their love has grown cold, unforgiving and ruthless, who, though they know the righteousness of Yahuwah, there it is again, folks. There it is again. And it's plain as day this time. It's very plain. Though they know the righteousness of Yahuwah, they know. They're doing this stuff because they're choosing to do it now. They're choosing darkness over light. That's why they're doing all these things. They're not in ignorance. It's not they don't know Yahuwah. He says, though they know the righteousness of Yahuwah, that those who practice such deserve death. So the ones anyone, we all know the righteousness of Yahuwah. He put it in our brains to know it. Every single person on this planet, everybody knows it. But the ones that were practicing these other things, the wickedness, these things that are categorized under wickedness, deserves death. Deserves death. Not only to the same, but also approval of those who practice them. Even if anybody that says, yeah, it's okay for you to do that, all you have to do is believe, you're in hot water too. How many people has said that? Put that thought in your mind or in your ears or in your heart. How many? A lot, right? Well, they're deserving of death also. It's just amazing, really. They know right from wrong because he put it in their conscious mind and intertwined it into his creation for us to know. So if they say they don't know, they're liars, because Scripture says they do, and I believe Scripture's over them. Go ahead, Toria.
Mine's more of a question. Disobedience to parents, or I've heard honor your mother and your father. I struggle with that one because once you become one with your Isha, become husband and wife, a woman, am I correct, becomes to her husband and is covered under her husband, is to do as he says. But when it says to disrespect or dishonor or your parents, is that as a child? Because I was always taught to honor your parents is to follow Torah. But my father has told me that the choices that I'm making now with my walk is dishonoring him for what I believe. And he's told me that I have broken the commands by not doing what he says.
Yeah, that's like looking at a coin, one side of a coin, right? There's another side of the coin, So yes, when you're together with your husband or wife, you become one. your husband, it can be considered your covering. And so is your long hair, as far as a woman goes, can be her covering as well. Or she can cover her head up with a scarf or whatever, you know what I mean? But as far as the honoring your father and your mother goes, that is, at some point you become a mother and father to somebody, you know, and so that passes on down to generation to generation. If you don't, if you say that you don't listen, you're not under your control of your father, then that's not correct, because he gave you away at your wedding, you know. And also, let's just say that, you know, you love them and you respect them and everything, but you also don't want to love them all the way to the lake of fire either. So there becomes a point where the, you know, the son or the daughter of the parents can turn around saying, stop, you make a mistake. You know, I love you, but listen to what I've got to say. You know what I'm saying? Because isn't there a verse in there that says, anyone who is not willing to leave your father and your mother and your brother and your sisters and your house is not worthy of the kingdom of Yahuwah? That's right. It does say that. That's the other side of the coin, isn't it? You see? So sometimes if a parent becomes against the will of Yahuwah in our life, we may have to cut the apron string. Doesn't mean we have to disrespect them or hate them. We can still love them. We can even visit them. But we don't have to listen to what they say if it's leading us into the lake of fire. Because we're adults now. We have children of our own to teach, you know. So our children have to honor us just so we have to honor ours. It passes down from generation to generation, because it's an everlasting covenant. The covenant is internal. And that reflects into obeying Yahuwah too, who is our Heavenly Father. You know, so I hope that helps, Toria. Anybody else got any comment on that? Go ahead, William.
Yeah, as a child, you know, I think there's an age of accountability that's in that equation also, you know, Mark. And you're right, what you're saying. You know, I'm still my father's son, but I'm of an age of accountability now where, like you said, if there's something going on between the two of us where we don't agree with the walk that I'm in, that's where the road separates. I don't have to disrespect him or dishonor him for his opinion, but I don't have to be dragged into the lake of fire for it either. Like you said, there's an age of accountability there. And I think, you know, when a woman gets married and her husband gives her away, that accountability is now on her and her husband in that relationship. And just that genuine love and understanding and respect is something that we're supposed to have. But he tells us to love him more than we love our own family members also, you know. Thanks.
Yeah, Phyllis?
I can't remember where it is, and I might be misquoting it, but doesn't it say honor your father and mother in the Lord, in Yahusha? And so if they're not in Yahusha, then where does that leave you?
Yeah, I agree, man. You can't let them lead you into the lake of fire, you know. So there is a gap there. There is a divide, and like I said, that's the other side of the coin. But remember, Phyllis, when we were speaking one time about your children being unclean. Remember that? I think it's the 1 Corinthians 7. Yeah, go to 1 Corinthians 7, everybody. 14. verse 14. 1 Corinthians 7, verse 14. For the unbelieving husband has been set apart in the Asha. Are you digging that? So if you have an unbelieving husband, then he's set apart in you. Because why? You're one. How can Yahusha send you to the lake of fire because of your husband's unbelief? He won't. Instead, he's going to bring your husband with you into everlasting life, even though he's an unbeliever, in you, through you, because you're one. He's not going to throw his elect into the lake of fire. So for the unbelieving husband has been set apart in the Asha, the believing Asha. And the unbelieving Asha has been set apart in the husband. So if he's a believer, she's not, same thing. That's a powerful statement, isn't it, people? I mean, come on. Otherwise, and here's the kicker that me and Phyllis was elaborating on one day. Otherwise, your children would be unclean, but now they are set apart. Wow. Okay, so see, you have an unbelieving husband, and the wife is believing. Okay, all right. So the unbelieving husband is also delivered because of the believing Asha, and the reason that is because if it wasn't that way, your children would be unclean. But now they are set apart with you, so your children are delivered because of the believing spouse. This is a powerful passage, man. So is there an age limit on the children? It doesn't say there is. Maybe your children remain clean because of your belief, believing Asha for the rest of their life. Think about it. It doesn't put an age limit on this. Go ahead, Diane.
Okay, I'm just a tad confused. Because individually, according to Scripture, we have to become set apart. We have to believe in Yahuwah and Yahusha and what He has done for us in order to inherit the reign of Yahusha. So I understand when it says that the husband and the wife, the unbelieving husband or wife, they're living together, and Yahuwah recognizes the one, so He's covering the other one. But still, as an individual, they still have to confess. They still have to repent to become part of the reign of Yahuwah. I mean, suppose the person, either husband or wife, never repents and they die. Where does that leave their set apartness when they were alive?
Yeah, and your thoughts have merit. If we continue to read there a few more verses, it will kind of answer your question. So let's go back to 1 Corinthians 7. And we read that in 14. So let's go to 15. It says, and if the unbelieving one separates, let him separate himself. A brother or a sister has not been enslaved in such things. So this only applies to your spouse and your children, nobody else. It just doesn't work for anybody, not for your father or your mother or your sister or your brother or anybody else. It's just your spouse. Why? Because you're one. He doesn't see two people anymore. He only sees one. And so through that one's belief, the other is delivered. Okay. Now let's read on. For how do you know, but Yahuwah has called us to peace. For how do you know, Asha, whether you shall save your husband? Or how do you know, husband, whether you shall save your Asha? Only as Yahuwah has distributed to each one, as the master has called each one, so let him walk. And so I order in all the assemblies. Does that answer your question?
Then that means the husband or wife, if they leave the believing husband or wife, they are no longer covered.
Right on. That's
Okay.
wrong. That's what
Okay.
it's. That's what I'm getting out of it. That's my
Okay.
understanding. Anybody else got a different understanding than that? Go ahead, Tori.
No, mine's going back to the first question. Okay, I'll say my own dad, okay, has disowned me for my walk. Okay, and I actually changed my name, and he said that I will go to hell for that, and that I have dishonored him and broken the commands. So my question is, once I am become one with my husband, is that still true? I mean, did I dishonor him? I mean, obviously I'm following Torah, I'm following truth. He's called me a Jew, and obviously, you know, I'm not leading the way he believes I should be walking. So that was my question: is disobedience, where is that at for my parent?
Yeah, no, he's wrong. Look, we're all responsible for our own deliverance, our own salvation, our own seeking out Yahuwah. We're all individually responsible for ourselves. Nobody, we can't save and help anybody else, nor can they help us. We have to go to Yahuwah on our own. Okay, your dad, he can't save you. He can't tell you what you have to do to be delivered. You know, he has no authority, okay, over spiritual matters and salvational matters. Okay, that's between you and Yahuwah. After you become an adult, as a child, then you have to listen to them. But once you're no longer a child, you put away childish things, you become a woman or a man, you're no longer under the authority of your parents. You're under the authority of Yahuwah and yourself. It's all between you and Yahuwah at this point. We're all responsible for our own deliverance, people.
That's what I had told him, and of course he cut me off. But I just wanted validation, I guess, to know that that's what I believed.
Yeah,
Okay.
you're correct.
Thank you.
He has no authority or power over you, and he surely can't say whether you're going to go to hell or be in the reign of Yahuwah or go into the lake of fire. He can't do that. He doesn't have that kind of authority or knowledge. Go ahead, Diane.
Unfortunately, I know of a husband who has a set-apart wife. I shouldn't have said it that way. There's a husband who has a set-apart wife, and has been an awesome wife and mother to their children. And he let it come out of his mouth one day that he considers her to be his lucky charm. So that as long as he stays with her, nothing will happen to him. And in that turn, he treats her poorly. So I guess that's why I had that sort of question before we read 1 Corinthians chapter 7, because some people who are not believers, they know in their mind, they know within themselves that this person, their spouse, is loves Yahuwah, and they are a good wife or a good husband. They know it. They know it. But yet they believe if they leave them, then all the judgment of Yahuwah will come down on them. They know it within themselves, seriously. So it's so this whole reading has been very, very, very helpful. But I'm sorry to say that he's thinking wrong if he thinks that he's blessed because they're still in the relationship with the set apart wife. But at the same time, he intently treats the family wrong.
Yeah, all I can say is you better stay with her. Go ahead, man.
Yeah, can you let Rebecca back in? She's trying to get back in. She got bumped out somehow, and she wants to get let back in. There she is. You're muted, Mark.
No, I said, sorry, Rebecca. When on the bottom row, I can only see about a quarter of an inch, so sometimes I miss it. But thanks, William, for pointing it out. Anybody else? Okay, let's continue on, Toria.
Chapter 2.
Oh, yeah, you're done, aren't you? Are you done reading? You got done, right?
Yeah, it's up to you.
So, all right, so we're on 3. Yami, you want to take 3?
Okay.
Chapter 2.
Chapter 2.
Oh, chapter 2. Okay.
Oh, are we on chapter 2?
2.
2.
Okay, boy, my mind must be blowed from last night still. All right, we're on chapter 2. Sorry.
Yeah,
Don't pay attention to me.
Yeah. All right. Therefore, O man, you are without excuse. Everyone who judges, for in the manner in which you judge another, you condemned yourself, since you who judge practice the same errors. And we know that the judgment of Yahuwah.
Hang on a minute. That's too important to pass right there. Yeah, so therefore, oh man, you are without excuse. So we know that now. Don't we know that? Everybody's without excuse because we all know with the righteousness of Yahuwah. That just confirms that. But here, everyone who judges for in the manner in which you judge another, you condemn yourself. So what are you doing by judging them? You're judging yourself as wrong, and you are condemning yourself to the lake of fire. Yeah, that's a scary thing right there. We need to wake up and realize that. It's like last night. What goes around comes around. However you treat someone else, whatever you do to somebody else, is going to happen to you. If you judge them, it's exactly how you're going to be judged. If you judge them as wrong, you're judging yourself as wrong. If you condemn them to the lake of fire because you feel they're not obedient, you're going to be condemned to the lake of fire because you're not obedient enough. Yeah, that's what this is talking about. Otherwise, we're hypocrites. Ain't nobody perfect. Nobody is righteous. No, not one. Only Yahusha. That's why when Yahuwah looks down and looks at us, we have Yahusha in us. He don't see us. He sees Yahusha because we've become Yahusha. That's all he sees, man. That's why he doesn't remember your sins no more because Yahusha had no sin. That's all he sees. So this is extremely important to understand this. We could be condemning ourselves since you judge and practice the same errors. See that? So everyone can condemn anyone because we all practice the same errors. But the problem is when you condemn them or judge them or point that out, you're doing the same thing to yourself. It's like a mirror. It reflects right back on you, and the same exact thing that you say is going to happen to them is going to happen to you. We have to be extremely careful, Natsarim, what we say and what we do. Everybody turn to James 4. Go to James 4, verse 11. James 4, verse 11. Brothers, do not speak against one another. He that speaks against a brother and judges his brother speaks against Torah and judges Torah. And if you judge Torah, you are not a doer of Torah, but a judge. There is only one lawgiver and judge who is able to save and to destroy. Who are you to judge another? This is something we really need to get. And it doesn't matter what you do to somebody. It doesn't have to even be judging. You know, whatever you do comes back to them. So therefore, if we give money, we'll say, to someone and not expect it back, is that coming back to us? You better believe it. Yeah, your life is a mirror. Whatever you do to others reflects right back into your life in one way or the other. Extremely important to see that. And so if we say, oh, we're obedient, it's easy to be obedient. You know, I'm obedient. It's simple. But then you look at somebody and say, well, he's disobedient, man. You don't know what he's talking about. He's going to the lake of fire. What did you just do? Well, you just condemned yourself to the lake of fire. It's only one lawgiver and one judge that can save and destroy, and it surely ain't me, and it's not any of you. It's Yahusha. Extremely important. That's what last night was all about. If you missed last night, go back and watch it. Okay, go ahead. Let's continue on with that now.
Okay, verse 2. And we know that the judgment of Yahuwah is according to the truth against those who practice such errors. And do you think, O man, you who judge those practicing such errors and doing the same, that you shall escape the judgment of Yahuwah?
So there it is. That just confirms what we just said.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody seeing that? Go ahead, William.
The idea of rebuking someone, there has to be some kind of a distinct difference between rebuking someone and then judging someone. You know, when we're rebuking somebody, my opinion, you know, it should be done with the consequence of what scripture reveals. There is a judgment that comes with the rebuking if they continue to walk in their sin. Okay. And like it says there, you know, being reflective of your own life and the sin in your own life and how that looks, you know, for me to condemn somebody to the lake of fire, in a rebuke, it should be more like, look, this is what scripture says about the way we're supposed to walk. And if you don't, you're going to get to go swimming in the lake of fire. You know, it's a very different thing, but sometimes in our anger, you know, we may say, like, you know, especially today with the things that we see going on, you know, there are certain people that we want to see, you know, get dunked in the lake of fire because of their poor behavior. Okay. That is a human nature in me, maybe that needs to be worked on a little bit more sometimes. But yeah, the rebuke and the judgment are two very distinctly different things, but carry the same consequence at the end. Just throwing that out there, because I know that was a big thing you were talking about last night, Mark. You know, big thing.
Yeah, we covered that pretty good last night. But yeah, that's absolutely true. Yeah, you know, rebuke is a sharp reprimand of someone. Okay, and it yields the power of Yahuwah. It gives the power over to Yahuwah to deal with that person, is what it does. When we judge somebody and we're saying, you're a bad person and you're going to the lake of fire, okay, then we're judging them and we're going to be judged in that same way as we're judging them. So yes, there is a difference there. Go ahead, Toria.
Actually, I was looking at the questions that Joseph Hassan asked. It says, I have a question. What if you're married to a Christian spouse that won't give up Christmas and will divorce you if you won't let the tree be put up in the house or will not remain in the house? Second question he asked, or won't stay in the house with the tree there. He won't. That was his question.
Well, that right there is a two-edged sword. First of all, I would say that we're not supposed to obey, observe pagan stuff, okay? And but on the other side of the coin, Yahuwah doesn't have anything to do with divorce. He doesn't want divorce. And we know that the unbelieving spouse is saved by the believing spouse. And then the final thing I just want to say about that is that the man is the head of the household. Who wears the pants in your house? I'm not going to let my wife put a Christmas tree up in my house because she wouldn't anyway. But if she did, I wouldn't let her. If she ran off, I'd say, bye. See you when you cool down. I'm not going to obey Yahuwah over my spouse, especially being the head of the household. If it was the other way around, then the woman could have to choose as well. Is she going to stay there under the roof, the authority of her husband, when he's practicing paganism in her home? You can leave there and say, I'm not going to participate. I'll be back after Christmas is over, if that's what you insist on doing. I don't want to divorce. Yahuwah hates divorce, but I'm not going to live under this house with you while you celebrate paganism. When it's done and over, I'll be back. You have to decide for yourself on what to do. And I would highly suggest going around your spouse if you're having this kind of an issue and praying to Yahuwah, turning it over to Yahuwah. When you say Yahuwah rebuke you, that's what we're doing. We're turning it over to Yahuwah. We refuse to take it on ourselves. We refuse to judge that person or condemn that person, because then we're judging and condemning ourselves. So we rebuke you and Yahuwah rebuke you. That means Yahuwah, deal with this. I don't know what I'm doing with this situation. So maybe you go around them, ask Yahuwah what to do. And when you get the answer, do it. I mean, we're all grown adults here. We have to decide, but divorce is definitely off the table. Go ahead, Phyllis.
You confused me yesterday when you were talking about the rebuke thing. Can you we can say to someone who said, I get blasted at by people from time to time, just yelling at. So can I just stand there and say, Yahusha rebuke you? Would that be proper?
Yeah, absolutely is. Because you're not judging them and you're not condemning them. It's not a voodoo spell. It's not a magic spell you're throwing on them. You're not sending them to the lake of fire when you say that. It's just a sharp reprimand from you. And it's releasing your involvement over to Yahuwah. So if they're sitting there talking crazy to you, say there's somebody calls you up on a prank phone call and they're saying nasty things to you. Whatever the situation is, you would simply say, Yahuwah rebuke you. You wouldn't say, hey, you're going to go to hell for that, because now you're judging. You say, Yahuwah rebuke you. And if they keep doing it, Yahuwah rebuke you. Yahuwah rebuke you. And pretty soon, you know what they're going to do? 99% sure they're going to hang up the phone, or they're going to stop talking and just get away from you. Why? Because they can't stand up to Yahuwah. You've turned it over to Yahuwah, and they know he's real. They know the righteousness of Yahuwah. And when you say Yahuwah rebuke you, they know even if they don't know it, they know subconsciously that now they're dealing with Yahuwah. And they know that. Even if they don't openly know it, they know it subconsciously, and pretty soon they leave you alone. I'm not dealing with Yahuwah, man. She done turn me over to Yahuwah. I'm out of here. But yes, Phyllis, you can do that. That's not evil. There's nothing wrong with that. Go ahead, Toria.
I do this. This is just a suggestion. As a spouse who has the ability, who sleeps next to me, I in the night will put my hands upon him, and I will pray that the Ruach HaKodesh comes upon him, and I pray over him as I, put my hands upon him, and he has no idea. So that's just a good suggestion.
Go, William.
The question was from Joseph, was it, about the Christmas tree? And Toria, with your father, myself with my family, have any of us had this division in our lives at any particular point in time, because of the way that we're walking right now? That's what it's doing. It causes division and confusion, just as it did for me when I first started to come in this from the church life that I had lived. It was causing confusion in my life, and it made me dive deeper to find out what we're talking.
Okay, I think we lost William there. He'll be back. There's somebody wrote something here. Oh, right here. Yeah, Sandra Brunston wrote, "Don't be unequally yoked with unbelievers," and that's a fact. We shouldn't be. But some of us are, because we were yoked together as unbelievers first, and then we became believers later on. So now we're unyoked, but really we're still one. So that's why Yahuwah says you'll be saved by your unbelieving spouse or your believing spouse. But that's a very good suggestion for those who are already believers. If you're already a believer and single, you don't want to marry an unbeliever. I mean, that would be a bad move. I would look elsewhere for a mate, as in somebody who is a believer, So very good suggestion. There's good advice. Unfortunately, some of us have already made that decision, to marry someone when we were both unbelievers, and there's where the friction comes in for us now. But with Yahuwah, with his compassion and mercy, and saying, look, you became a believer. Don't worry, I'll save your spouse because of your belief. Wow, how compassionate, merciful, and graceful is that, man, for him to do that for us. Powerful. Otherwise, you would lose your spouse. You would be cut in half. You would be divorced. And he hates divorce. So he came up with a better solution, didn't he? I think it's just fantastic that's there. Anybody else on that subject? Anybody? Okay, let's go ahead.
Okay, verse 4. Or do you despise the riches of his kindness and tolerance and patience, not understanding that the kindness of Yahuwah leads you to repentance? But according to your hardness and your unrepentant heart, you are treasuring up for yourself wrath in the yom of wrath and revelation of the righteous judgment of Yahuwah, who shall render to each one according to his works. Everlasting life to those who by determination in good work seek for esteem and respect, and incorruptibility, but wrath and displeasure to those who are self-seeking and do not obey the truth, but obey unrighteousness. Affliction and distress on every person working what is evil, of the Yahudi initially, and also of the Greek. But esteem, respect, and peace to everyone working what is good, to the Yahudi initially, and also to the Greek. For there is no partiality with Yahuwah. For
Okay, hang on. Okay, so very good. You know, we can see several examples back to back here of the Yehudai initially, and then the Greek. You know, and so we got to remember that, because a lot of people try to say Paul was the apostle to the Gentiles, and now we and they kind of like they follow Paul rather than Yahusha. Drives me insane. It's all Paul, 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 and I'm like, how about Yahusha, 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 man? You know, Paul ain't got the authority to change commands, you know, and stuff, and throw out the Torah. Come on, man. Who do you think Paul is? He's a servant like us. But anyway, for there is no partiality with Yahuwah is huge. We need to get that. So let's turn to James 2, verse 8. James 2, verse 8. Everybody there? If you truly accomplish the sovereign law according to the scripture, you shall love your neighbor as yourself. You do well. But if you show partiality, you commit sin, being found guilty by the Torah as offenders. For whoever shall guard all the Torah and yet stumble in one point, he is guilty of all. Wow. Okay. So here, you know, partiality, even though you're obeying all the commands, you're loving your neighbor as yourself, and show partiality towards somebody, you choose somebody over another person, you're sinning. It's a sin, you know, and, you know, not only is it a sin, but for whoever shall guard all the Torah and yet stumble on one point, he is guilty of all. That means you broke every command in the Torah. Isn't that not amazing, or what? Yeah, what? And then the Torah has become what? A witness against you. So your knowledge, the more that you know about the Torah, the bigger sinner you have become. Because if you break one, you broke every single one written in the Torah. So if Yahuwah doesn't show partiality, should we? Should we show partiality and favor someone over another? I would say no. Go ahead, Phyllis.
Can you give me an example of that? I'm not sure what he means showing partiality from one to another.
Okay, just say there's a group of Natsarim within the Natsarim. So say we're one body, right? We're all united together as one body. If one person gets in trouble, we're all in trouble, right? See what I'm saying? So what if one's happy, we're all happy. So we're one with Yahuwah. Yahusha is the head, right? So the partiality is an example. There's more examples, but and what I'm going to use now is what we would call a faction. So in this little faction, we have a group within the Natsarim, say 3 or 4 people that meet secretly every week, maybe once or twice or whatever they do, secretly, and they judge all the other Natsarim. Did you hear what so-and-so said? Did you hear what so-and-so did? You know, and so they're showing partiality because they show favor to each other over the rest of the body. And scripture gives us a good example when it says a man comes in and he's dressed up and he's got a nice haircut and shaved and he's got $10,000, I'm paraphrasing, $1,000 suit on and wearing shiny shoes. And the guy comes up and says, man, that guy's got some money, and he put his arm around him, so you come sit up front with us, assuming the man's rich, right? And then this poor guy comes in wearing rags, hasn't taken a bath in a couple of weeks, kind of a little bit of an odor to him. And it comes up and says, man, get that guy out of here. Hey, man, you can be here, but see that last seat way back out there by the door? Why don't you go sit over there? Who are they doing? They're showing partiality to the rich man against the poor man. That's a sin. And that makes you guilty of the entire Torah if you do that. Even if you love your neighbor as yourself, even if you're able to achieve that deep of understanding, that deep of obedience, to love somebody as yourself or even above yourself, and you show impartiality to someone or partiality to someone, you're in big trouble. Because it says here, for there is no partiality with Yahuwah. He doesn't favor any one of us over the other. He doesn't like me more than he does Tat, or vice versa. There's no partiality. But what does Yahuwah show partiality in? What does he show partiality in? Anybody know? Not in person, not in between people, but what does he? Even the evil.
Believers and unbelievers.
Bam. He shows partiality in belief. And who has the more belief? He favors those who have more belief. And he does more things for those who have belief over those who have unbelief. Matter of fact, he won't even do too much for somebody who has unbelief. It's not that he can't, it just he chooses not to.
His prayers are an abomination.
What's that? What'd you say?
Even his prayers are an abomination.
Yeah. If you're not obedient, if you're an unbeliever or you're unrighteous, which means you're not obedient. If you're righteous, you're obedient. Unrighteous is unobedient. You're not obedient. So if you're an unbeliever or you're a disobedient person, then even your prayers are an abomination to Yahuwah. That's saying a whole lot right there. That's what kind of shook me at the core when I first started coming out of the delusion, is when I read that, and I said, what? Even your prayers are an abomination? I better change my ways real quick. You mean he hasn't been hearing me all this time? So yeah, extremely important. All righty, let's anybody else? William's battery must have died on him. He ain't back yet. All right. Yeah, let's continue.
Okay, verse number 12. For as many as sinned without Torah shall also perish without Torah, and as many as sinned in the Torah shall be judged by the Torah. For not the...
Hang on. You can't pass that up. That's one of the things they like to point to. Okay. So for as many as sinned without Torah, they don't know anything about the Torah, shall also perish without the Torah. Why? Because they're going to be judged by their conscious mind, their choices, and what they've seen through creation and through their conscious mind that's been implanted into their mind by Yahuwah. He's going to judge them by that. Because don't forget, we all know of the righteousness of Yahuwah. They're without excuse, man. They can say, I don't believe in him all day long. But we now know they're lying. They do believe in him. They choose to be disobedient. and give his esteem to men and animals and statues and images. That's what they're choosing to do. And the ones that do it, we can see the perversion. He's turned over their mind and gave them a reprobate mind. Right? So that becomes pretty obvious who they are at that point. Many of them, anyway. Okay, and so it shall perish without the Torah. You're still going to be judged by your conscious mind and what's in creation. And as many as sinned in the Torah shall be judged by the Torah. So you become even a bigger sinner, man. So if you have the letter and you know it, you have more to worry about because you understand what sin is even more. So you better be on your toes. Either way, nobody has an excuse. Say, well, what happens to people in the jungle that's never heard of the Torah? What's going to happen to them? They're going to be judged by their conscious mind in creation. They're still without excuse. And they said, well, the scripture's going to be spread. When the scripture's spread throughout all the nations, then the end will be done. This is just a prediction. This isn't meaning that they have to read the Torah before they can be judged. Don't mean that at all. It's just a prediction. When you see that the Torah is written in all the different languages throughout the world, you're getting very close to the second coming of Yahusha. That's what that means. It's just a prediction. See? Okay, let's roll.
For not the hearers of the Torah are righteous in the sight of Yahuwah, but the doers of the Torah shall be declared right. For when nations who do not have the Torah by instinct to what it is in the Torah, although not having the Torah, they are a Torah to themselves.
There you go. Here's what we were just talking about. You see it written down there now. Everybody says pretty clear, pretty plain. We should all understand that, what's going on. Matter of fact, this verse 14 right here and 15 that we just read explains verse 12 to us. Do you notice that? So verse 12 says, for as many as sinned without Torah shall also perish without Torah, and as many as sinned in the Torah shall be judged by the Torah. And then 14 says, for when nations who do not have the Torah by instinct do what is in the Torah, because it's written in their minds and in creation. Although not having the Torah, they are a Torah to themselves. Why? Because he read it they put it in their conscious minds. So they're going to be judged by what's their conscious mind. Everybody around the entire world knows that murder is wrong. Knows that stealing is wrong. Why? They don't have the Torah because it's written in their conscious mind. And they're going to be judged by that. Those who have the Torah will be judged by the Torah under a higher standard because you know what sin is more. You know more sin. You have a knowledge of more transgressions. So you become a bigger sinner because if you break one, you've broken everything in the Torah because you have the Torah. Don't matter. 1 or a million is still sin to death. You're still going to the lake of fire, right? Okay. So, verse 14 and 15 explains verse 12 to us. So we have a clear understanding now of what's going on, I hope. Let's go. Just go ahead, Yami, you're back up.
Okay, verse 15, who show the work of the Torah written in their hearts, their conscience also bearing witness, and between themselves their thoughts accusing or even excusing. In the Yom, when Yahuwah shall judge the secrets of man through Yahusha Mashiach, according to my Besorah. See, You are called a Yahudi, and rest on the Torah, and make your boast in Yahuwah. And know the desire of Yahuwah, and approve what is superior, being instructed out of the Torah, and are trusting that you yourself are a guide to the blind, a light to those who are in darkness, an instructor of foolish ones, a teacher of babes, having the form of knowledge and of the truth in the Torah. You then, who teach another, do you not teach yourself? You who proclaim that a man should not steal, do you steal? You who say, do not break wedlock, do you break wedlock? You who abominate idols, do you rob temples? You who make your boast in the Torah through the transgression of the Torah, do you disrespect Yahuwah? For the name of Yahuwah is blasphemed among the nations because of you, as it has been written. For circumcision indeed profits if you practice the Torah, but if you are a transgressor of the Torah, your circumcision has become uncircumcision. So if an uncircumcised one watches over the righteousness of the Torah, shall not his uncircumcision be reckoned as circumcision?
And the answer to that is yes. Does everybody understand this, what we just read? This passage, is it clear? Okay, let's go on then.
And the uncircumcised by appearance, who perfects the Torah, shall judge you, who despite letter and circumcision are a transgressor of the Torah. For he is not a Yahudi, who is so outwardly, neither is circumcision that which is outward in the flesh. But a Yahudi is he who is so inwardly, and circumcision is that of the heart, in Ruach, not literally, whose praise is not from men, but from Yahuwah.
All right, thanks, Yami.
You're welcome.
Okay, so Yehuda is who is so inwardly is someone who has a good conscience toward Yahuwah, and you have a pure heart. It's not, you're not faking it. You're not pretending like you're a Yehuda and you're not, stuff like that. And circumcision that of the heart in Ruach, not literally, whose praise is not from men. The praise from men is, oh, I've been circumcised, I'm in the covenant, this type of deal, but from Yahuwah, which is what? Mashiach in you. Mashiach in you. Okay, so the outward circumcision is does not come into play as far as being in the covenant. Why? Well, we'll learn here shortly, and as we go into the third chapter here. But as a hint, remember that Abraham believed, okay, by belief, before he was ever circumcised. He became he got circumcised after he was given the land covenant, but he believed while he was uncircumcised, by belief. And what? The promise. The promise through the covenant of what? The redemption of Israel and the coming Messiah through his line, through his seed. He believed all that before he was circumcised. So he was believed while he was uncircumcised. Now just keep that in mind. Okay. Do we have a reader for chapter 3? Go ahead, Gibson girl. Rebecca had her hand up first. Go ahead, Rebecca. Or you got a question or you want to read?
I'll read. I just needed to unmute. What then is the advantage of the Yehudi, or what is the value of the circumcision? Much in every way. Because firstly, indeed, that they were entrusted with the words of Yahuwah. For what if some did not believe? Shall their unbelief nullify the trustworthiness of Yahuwah? Let it not be. But yet Yahuwah be true, and every man a liar, as it has been written, that you should be declared right in your words and prevail in your judging.
Okay.
But if our unrighteousness...
Hold on. That's extremely important. All right. If Yah is not true, then we have no hope. You know, our hope of deliverance is no longer valid. Right? So it's better that all men are liars and Yahuwah be true so that we can be delivered. Right? So this is very, very, very vitally and critically important for us to realize this, that let Yahuwah be true and every man is a liar. As it been written that you should be declared right in your words and prevail in your judging. Because if he's right in his words and prevails in his judging, means we can be delivered. It's extremely important. Let's turn to Psalms 51. Go to Psalms 51. Tad, would you read Psalms 51 to us? Tad, you read Psalms 51. Rebecca, can you mute? There you go. All right, Tad.
It says, show me favor, Elohim, according to your kindness, according to the greatness of your compassion, blot out my crimes. Wash me completely from my guilt and cleanse me from my sin. For I know my crimes, and my sin is ever before me. Against you, you alone have I sinned and done evil in your eyes, that you might be proven right in your words. Be clear when you judge. See, I was brought forth in crookedness, and in sin my mother conceived me. See, you have desired truth in the inward parts, and in the hidden part you make me know wisdom. Cleanse me with hyssop, and I am clean. Wash me, and I am whiter than snow. Let me hear joy and gladness. Let the bones you have crushed rejoice. Hide your face from my sins and blot out all my crookednesses. Create in me a clean heart, O Elohim, and renew a steadfast ruach within me. Do not cast me away from your presence, and do not take your Ruach HaKodesh from me. Restore to me the joy of your deliverance, and uphold me, noble Ruach. Let me teach transgressors your ways, so that sinners turn back to you. Deliver me from blood guilt, Elohim, Elohim of my deliverance. Let my tongue sing aloud of your righteousness. Yahuwah, open my lips, and that my mouth declare your praise. For you do not desire slaughtering, or I would give it. You do not delight in burnt offering. The slaughterings of Elohim are a broken ruach, a heart broken and crushed. Elohim, these you do not despise. Do good in your good pleasure to Zion. Build the walls of Jerusalem. Then you would delight in slaughterings of righteousness, in burnt offering and complete burnt offering. Then young bulls would be offered on your altar.
All right. Thanks, Ted. Okay. So here we, now we should have a really good understanding why that we esteem Yahuwah, give all esteem to Yahuwah, and let him be true and all men liars. Okay. Should be very clear in all of our minds now. Okay, Rebecca.
But if our unrighteousness establishes the righteousness of Yahuwah, what shall we say? Is Yahuwah unrighteous who is inflicting wrath? I speak as a man. Let it not be. Otherwise, how shall Yahuwah judge the world? For if the truth of Yahuwah has increased through my lie to his esteem, why am I also still judged as a sinner? And why not say, let us do evil, so that the good might come? The end does not justify the means. As we are wrongly accused, and as some claim that we say, their judgment is in the right. What then? Are we better than they? Not at all, for we have previously accused both Yahudim and Greeks that they are all under sin. As it has been written, there is none righteous, no, not one. There is no one who is understanding. There is none who is seeking Yahuwah. They all have turned aside. They have together become worthless. There is none who does good, no, not one. Their throat is an open tomb. With their tongues they have deceived. The poison of adders is under their lips, whose mouth is filled with cursing and bitterness. Their feet are swift to shed blood. Ruin and wretchedness are in their ways, and the way of peace they have not known. There is no fear of Yahuwah before their eyes.
Okay, hang on a second, Rebecca. Okay, so from verse 10 down to 18 there is what? Verses taken out of the Tanakh. They're all verses. See the quotes? I recognize the feet are swift to shed blood, ruin, and wretchedness are in their ways. That's in Isaiah. First one up here, there is none righteous, no, not one, is in Psalms. So these are different extracted verses from the Tanakh down to this point, what Paul is quoting here. Okay. And did you see up there where it says, I speak as a man in 5? So this is very important to notice that and take that into consideration when he says, I'm speaking as a man. He's not being led by the Ruach when he says that. He's only given his private interpretation. It's important to get that. Okay, go ahead, Rebecca.
And we know that whatever the Torah says, it says to those who are in the Torah, so that every mouth might be stopped, and all the world come under judgment before Yahuwah. Therefore, by works of Torah, no flesh shall be declared right before him, for by the Torah is the knowledge of sin. But now, apart from the Torah, a justice of Yahuwah has been revealed, being witnessed by the Torah and the prophets. And the righteousness of Yahuwah is through belief in Yahushua Mashiach to all and on all who believe, for there is no difference. For all have sinned and fall short of the esteem of Yahuwah, being declared right without paying by his favor through the redemption which is in Mashiach Yahusha, whom Yahuwah set forth as an atonement through belief in his blood, to demonstrate his justice, because in his tolerance, Yahuwah has passed over the sins that had taken place before, to demonstrate at the present time his righteousness, that he is righteous and declares righteous the one who has belief in Yahusha. Where then is the boasting? Is it shut out by what? Torah? Of works? No, but by the Torah of belief. For we reckon that a man is declared right by belief without works of Torah. Or is he the Yahuwah of the Yahudim only, and not also of the nations?
Okay, hold on.
Yes.
Hold on. Okay. Can anybody explain to us what this is saying? If we reckon that a man's declared right by belief without works of Torah, what's he talking about here, Matt? Is he talking about obedience? If we reckon that a man is declared right by belief only with no works, no obedience, is that what this is telling us? Because that's what Christians say it means. Anybody know? Can anybody explain that to us? Go ahead, Toria.
You must have both, because you can't have obedience without work.
Faith without works is dead.
That's true. Both of those are true. But if we reckon that a man is declared right by belief without works of Torah, what does that mean? Does that mean we don't have to obey the commandments like the Christians say? See, here's where Paul's writings gets a little bit confusing. Go ahead, Ro.
But it says here, but by the Torah of belief. So it's clearly saying you need Torah and belief. You need them both.
And that's a true statement too. But what does this verse 28 mean? Okay, so this is where Paul's writings is hard to understand that Peter was suggesting to us, right? So what we have to realize here is Paul says Torah and works and law for everything. Okay, so what does Torah really mean? What's Torah mean? Instructions.
Instructions.
All right. It doesn't really mean law, does it? It means instructions. So we reckon that a man's declared right by belief without the works of instruction or the works of the Torah in adult male circumcision. It's speaking specifically of that statute, of that law, not the entire Torah, as it sounds. So here, Paul, as he was speaking to these people about circumcision and uncircumcision and all this other stuff, and through belief before circumcision, even in Abraham's case and all this and that, he just simply says works of Torah. They take this as either the commandments or the entire Torah. It's worthless. All you have to do is believe. But it isn't talking about that. It's talking about the works of the Torah being circumcision. Okay, so for we are reckoned that a man is declared right by belief without circumcision, fleshly circumcision. Just then we would understand that better, wouldn't we? But Paul don't say that. Paul says without the works of Torah. So that people don't understand that. So this is what Peter was telling us. You know, some of Paul's writings are hard to understand, even for Peter, who was living in the same era. You know, so this is what we have to understand because you're going to be confronted with this. I promise you. everybody, all Christians are been taught that you only have to believe. You don't have to obey the Torah. Okay, so sometimes Paul is talking about animal sacrificing. Okay, the blood of animals. Sometimes he's talking about he talks about circumcision a lot and calls it Torah. See, so when we start understanding this and putting it in context of the subject that we're reading, keeping it in context, it's not hard to decipher what Paul means. But if we don't, and we're what we were taught to, it covers the entire Torah, means the entire Torah, then we're going to get in big trouble because we're going to be teaching falsehood. Anybody got anything about that, Toria?
It does say, if you love me, you love Torah. Torah is love. So the circumcision of love.
Yeah, and there's an inner circumcision that we learned about inwardly, the circumcision of the heart, inward circumcision, right? Versus outward circumcision. See that we're dealing with that as well. So we have to know these type things in order to understand what Paul is speaking about, because he just generalizes it. He throws all the eggs in one basket, and we have the job of trying to sort them out, figure out, okay, what's he talking about when he says Torah? What's he talking about when he says works of Torah? What's he talking about when he says law? What's he talking about when he says circumcision or uncircumcision or belief or works? Because he puts it all in one basket. Doesn't mean the same. And we can only determine that by keeping everything in close proximity that we find it in the context. Then it helps us. That's what Peter was telling us, warning us about, Paul's writings. Okay, so we reckon that a man is declared right by belief without being circumcised, before circumcision. As in Abraham's the example of that. And we're going to find out later on, it's pretty clear. Okay, so that's or works by what? Torah or works? No, but by the Torah of belief. Okay, so the instructions of belief is what? And your steadfastness, your emunah. Okay, everybody with me so far on that? Yeah, it's an important thing to understand. Go ahead.
Especially when we know that he says he'll write a love for his Torah upon our hearts.
Yeah, exactly. Good point. Go ahead, Rule.
I guess if you read this in the Christian way, it'd be good. It'd be okay to murder. It'd be okay to, because if they throw that the Torah is no longer, but yet they pick and choose things from the Torah to follow and not to follow.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Okay. I think we all got a handle on this. Let's go ahead and finish it off there, Rebecca.
Okay. Or is he the Yahuwah of the Yahudim only, and not also of the nations? Yes, of the nations also, since it is the one Yahuwah who shall declare right, the circumcised by belief and the uncircumcised through belief. Do we then nullify the Torah through the belief? Let it not be. On the contrary, we establish the Torah.
Okay. So this right here is a lot to say in just a little sentence, and it confuses a lot of people. But what we need to understand here is basically Is he the Yahuwah of the Yehudim only, which is the circumcised people, and not also the nations who are the uncircumcised people? So that's what they're referring to. And the answer is yes, he is for both, also of the nations. Okay, so starting in 30 now, here we're there when it says, since it is one Yahuwah who shall declare right the circumcised, which would be the Yehudim, by belief. Okay, so what does that mean? By belief is basically by belief in the promise given to Abraham. Okay. And therefore, these folks think that the belief by belief is their is proven by their circumcision. But what they fail to understand is Abraham was not circumcised when he believed the promise. He believed before his circumcision. Ooh, that changes the whole ball game, doesn't it? It absolutely does. Okay, and the uncircumcised through belief. So what's that? What's by and through? What's the difference here? Okay, so in the uncircumcised, now we're speaking about the nations again, right? Is through belief in the promise that's already came. They believed after the promise came. Did they not? Yeah. So that would be in Yahusha, resurrection, and through Yahusha's blood atonement, sacrifice. Is this out the uncircumcised through belief, through the promise that has been implemented, has already came now. So it's not by belief, but now it's through belief because it's came. See the difference? So that's what this is kind of talking about. I'm not sure if I'm being real clear on it, and I hope you guys are seeing what I'm saying here. But it says, do we then nullify the Torah through the belief? Let it not be. So he clears up any doubt right here that the Torah has been nullified or abolished because all we have to do is believe. He says, let it not be. And so the answer is no way, Jose. Okay, so do we then nullify or abolish the Torah through the belief? No, let it not be. On the contrary, we establish the Torah. We don't throw it out, we establish it, we prove it's correct. See? So, a lot of confusion there, but it's easily dissected if we just really look at it closely. Go ahead, Roll.
I had a drill sergeant once tell me that I have to ask questions. If not, I never learn. So I have a question. Isn't really circumcision more of a cleanliness instruction through the Torah? It's not only for spiritual also, wasn't it really kind of like your dietary laws or your dietary instructions and all that? Wasn't that like the most important part of the circumcision?
Well, not exactly. I mean, the circumcision is a land grant. It was a covenant between Yahuwah and Abraham and his descendants, Yitzchak and Yaakov, and his descendants, that he would give them the promised land forever. So it was more of a land covenant that inherited the promised land, and that would be their land forever. That's what that was more about. But when he told him that to look up at the stars, and if he could count them, that would be the number of his seed, and his name means the father of nations, right? And so he was prophesying the scattering of the tribes and the increase of Abraham's seed throughout the world, throughout all the nations, when he told him that. So this blood covenant was a land covenant, was sealed. He sealed the deal when he made the covenant between Yahuwah and Yahuwah, between himself, as he walked through the smoke and furnace and the chimney and all that, right? When he cut those animals in half and walked through the blood, the covenant was sealed with blood between Yahuwah and Yahuwah, which makes it everlasting. It's an eternal covenant. The children of Israel will always have that land over there.
Okay.
You know what I mean? But
Thank you for the explanation.
Go ahead.
No, I said thank you for the explanation. I was a little wrong.
Yeah, but don't forget, through the seed of Abraham came the promise. And this is what Abraham believed in. He believed in the deliverer coming to save Israel from darkness, from the lake of fire, through the light, through the deliverer, through David's seed, through Abraham's seed, through Dawood came Yahusha.
Okay.
See what I'm saying? And so that was what he believed in. So by belief is because they believed in the promise of a coming deliverer to save Israel from their darkness and in the lake of fire. You know what I'm saying? So that's in there as well. That's part of it.
Okay, thank you.
And of course, the Torah was given because of transgression. And the Torah was given through Moses because of transgression. The truth and favor came through Yahushua HaMashiach. Okay. Anybody else? Well, here's the big question I got for y'all. Do you want to do Romans 4 is really a continuation of these first three chapters before he starts changing subject in 5 there. He doesn't really change subject, but we go off into a different direction a little bit. Do you want to finish Romans 4, or is it too late? We want to stop. So let me see. We've been on 2.5 hours. That's probably long enough for today. So we'll continue next week with 4. Let's just do it that way because it's really quite a long chapter, actually. I mean, there's a lot of depth to it, and I don't want to rush through it because we'll miss a lot. So let's just stop here with today's study and open it up. Anybody? Comments, questions, concerns, testimonies, witnessing, anything you want to talk about, questions about today's study, last week's study, whatever, don't matter. It's an open format. Anybody got anything to say? Is there any questions over in the chat room anybody sees? Go ahead, Ro.
This is just something that I think about is a lot of this that I had never read the Bible. Let's start there. I went to a Jesuit prep school and I never was taught the Bible. Okay. I think we started reading Genesis once and that was it. But when I read the Bible, I see a lot of what's going on today, politically, socially. In the Bible, is there like one day that you could have a special talk to see how we relate to our daily life?
Well, I think so. I mean, I think the Ruach, there's nothing new under the sun. Scripture tells us that. So we just basically revolve, repeating what every generation has done, really. So yeah, our technical advances and our ability to bring up data with our fingertips and all that kind of stuff has changed. But I think the core message what's happening in scriptures is continues on through every generation. You know, there's
Okay.
nothing new under the sun. You know, but yeah.
Virtual captivity. Got it.
And yeah, I answered the question wrong.
Thank you, Rebecca.
I not answered your question, Rule.
Yes, and Rebecca also.
And that's Lou White's new book.
Yeah.
It's on Amazon or tourzone.net.
Mm.
It's how to talk to your family more than, you know,
El libro de.
how to witness to your family or tell your family, explain to your family how what your relationship is with Yahuwah, why you don't believe in religions anymore. You don't want to go to church with your mom anymore. That kind of stuff.
I think I'm gonna mail that to my sister.
Mm-hmm.
You know, my mom used to invite me and my brothers to the church with her, and we'd all go, and then she'd sit there and brag about being in church with her sons and stuff, you know. And now I would have to decline the offer. But she's coming around anyway. She's not doing Christmas and Easter and that kind of stuff anymore anyway. So it's hard for her, you know, but she's coming around. Go ahead, Becca.
Joseph Hessen has a question in the chat. My question earlier was hypothetical. I know some that dealing with that issue and some that have split up because of that issue. Joseph, can you clarify what you're saying?
It was the Christmas question I read earlier.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, I know what he's saying. He was just throwing it. What he's saying is, this wasn't me. I don't have that. My wife ain't doing that. But he was just throwing it out there because he knows other people that did. That's all.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and that's a good point. He brought that up, you know. But I think we covered that fairly well. You see any other questions over there in the chat room?
Interesting to me is I also like Raul. I went to church as a child, and they never read to us from any scriptures, and I didn't actually start really learning until as an adult. They just would tell you stories of Noah's Ark, but we didn't know who he was or what, anything about Abraham. We didn't understand any, we just were told little stories, but we didn't know who they were. It's just interesting how the churches really don't teach their children.
Yeah, I realize there are very few shepherds. There's multiple flocks, but there's very few shepherds. And the majority of them are wearing wolves' clothing. They just look like sheep, but they're not. I was raised in the word from childhood. I'm very grateful for that. But unfortunately, I was taught many false doctrines. And having to weed all of those out and stand fast in the truth and to stand strong against a big family who's still very much seeped in those doctrines that are false has been a challenge. But his word is a sword. And if I can go back to it is written, it stops their mouths and maybe softens their hearts and maybe starts them to start thinking. Because I say, are you in the word? Are you proving it? Can you prove me wrong? Can you show me where the Sabbath has been done away with? Can you show me what his true name is? Once we get them on that path, then hopefully those scales will start falling off of their eyes and they'll start reading scripture for themselves. It's a free gift. This is everywhere on the planet. His word will not return to him void. It will accomplish what it has been set out to do. He's faithful and just and loving. There's hope.
Amen. Go ahead, Ro.
Phyllis, do you have the book now? Can we get the book from you?
We just got the books in yesterday. So it's on. I haven't put it on our order form yet. I haven't had time. It's Sabbath, but I'll put it up.
I'll write you an email after sundown.
That's good that you remembered Yom Shabbat there, Ro.
You guys are good teachers. I still have a lot of work to do, but I don't know. Something inside me. I've always known, because I was always a Jesus freak. I don't know if I could understand. I always loved him. It was always there. I was in the wrong, let's say, school, but there's so many things that happen in your life that you say, wow, like I got circumcised and I'm not even Jewish. So those things kind of say, well, why did my parents have me circumcised if I'm not Jewish? You know, and all these things that happen in your life that kind of push you in that way, in that walk, but yet you don't realize it until sometimes when you're kind of old. But I'm trying to make up.
Yeah, I think most of us come out of Christianity in here, you know. There's some atheists and some, maybe a Muslim or something, but I think most of us are Christians background. And, you know, they're not totally off. And there's some truth in there. The truth that we were taught, that we do, we keep that, you know, we don't discard that just because it was taught to us by an uninformed teacher, you know, but all the falsehood we dump. And so basically we have to relearn everything that we learned through those religious sects, because they concentrate on giving esteem to themselves, not to Yahuwah. And we're all about giving all the esteem to Yahuwah, right? That's the big difference between us and them, if you will. So no man is worth or chasing after or following or appraising another man, you know, like that. I mean, we all give each other compliments, and most of us like compliments. I really don't care much for them, but you know, even those we should probably try to stop doing, you know, and just turn around and give all the esteem to Yahuwah. But you know, sometimes for the benefit of the person that's giving you compliments, it's okay to accept them and thank them for them to help their belief. Because sometimes if you don't, you put a stumbling block in front of them and hurt their belief. So you have to discern, you know, be careful with it. But I generally pass the compliment on to Yahusha. At least I try to remember to do that. We want to walk in humility with Yahuwah. Go ahead.
I was reading what Rebecca wrote in regards to the circumcision that Raul was asking about. Rebecca wrote the physical instructions also kept them alive and healthy. All of his instructions are to our benefit and are not to our harm. They also have a spiritual application, which was discussed, that is much deeper, showing his plans for us. So probably, Raul, where you were born or what have you, it was probably, they made a law at one point in time that males had to be circumcised unless they had a religious belief against it. So what Rebecca wrote was good. I don't know if you saw it or not, but it was good.
Go ahead, Toria.
Okay, so this is quite interesting. My husband's from the Virgin Islands, and it's very rare that they circumcise their children. He was not. The family, they don't do it. They can't. I mean, now it's so extremely expensive, but it's not common on that island. When I had my first son there, they also didn't circumcise him either. So it's kind of a. And then once we moved to the States, of course, our second son was done. But I mean, where do you go from there? You know, when a place doesn't do it. So it is interesting, like you said, in some places they do it, it's law, and some they don't because of, I don't know, poverty. It's interesting.
Yeah, it's more of like she was saying for personal hygiene. You know what I'm saying? It's a personal hygiene issue, really. The males have to keep that clean if they're uncircumcised, or they can get infections and all kinds of weird stuff can happen to them. You know, so it becomes a personal hygiene issue. It's not really a salvation issue, is it? It doesn't matter. We become Yisrael not from the outwardly, which means by circumcision, but inwardly. Remember, we just read that. That's how you become Israelite, you know, or Yehudim, whatever you want to say. So it's okay that they're not, but they need to keep it clean, or they'll become unclean and could get infections and have physical problems. You know, that's the real issue here. It's really nothing for a salvational issue at all anymore. Okay. Rule, go ahead. Sorry, I interrupted.
I'm fine, thank you.
Well, then I guess we'll get off. I have the Rule. Go ahead. Rule, go ahead.
I was just trying to say blessing before we leave.
Mark, you're muted.
Okay, I'll do the blessing if everybody's ready to get off. No more questions. Okay. Yahuwah bless you and guard you. Yahuwah make his face shine upon you and show favor to you. Yahuwah lift up his face upon you and give you shalom. Amen.
Shalom.
Oh.
Baruch haba b'shem Yahuwah. See y'all next week.
I love you all.
Baba Shem Yahuwah.
Good to see you.
Good to see
So
you.
good to see you. I love you all.
Love you.
Glad you're
Next-
back, Rebecca.
Next time.
Yeah.
I'm glad I'm back too. May
Welcome
God
back.
bless and keep you.
So long, beloved of Yahuwah.
So long.
Shalom. Shalom.
Shalom.
I can't get